Hi everyone. For this week in Startup Kitchen, we have John Rowe of Honeybee. So John, could you tell us a bit about yourself and how you became an entrepreneur?
Happy to. And thank you very much for the invitation to speak with you today. Um, I have been an entrepreneur my whole life. I grew up in a family of small and medium-sized business people. A lot of my family here in Prince Edward Island have worked in the primary sectors, agriculture, fisheries, um, as well as forestry. So I grew up surrounded by entrepreneurs. And under their guidance, my mentors really instilled a love of business and entrepreneurship in me at a very early age. My first mentor, of course, my first mentors, I should say, were my parents. And under their guidance, I started my first business when I was 11. It was picking strawberries at one of our neighbors' farms and then selling them at the end of our lane. And the summer following that, under again my parents' guidance, they encouraged me to hire some friends to work the field and me to work the booth. So I have to say that I had employees when I was 12.
That's awesome. It's pretty cool you were able to do that at 11. So it's great. Like your parents are able to help out that way. It's something I think that should probably happen more and at a young age. It's cool to see. I wish I had done something like that early on.
Well, the good news is that it's never too late to start. You can always go into business for yourself. And I encourage people of any age to try being an entrepreneur. No matter what they may wish to try, the experience is something I think everybody should give a kick at that can at some point in their life.
Cool. So, like when I first noticed Honeybee being from PI, like as I saw it at a store here in Fredericton actually. Then I realized I'd seen this somewhere, and I realized it was from Dragon's Den.
Oh,
So, so the story is so well known about dragons. And could you tell us about how you got funded, how you have funded this business till now?
well, as I said, I've been an entrepreneur since a very young age. And fortunately, this is not the only business that I own, actually. Um, my wife and I own Honeybee. However, I am partnered in a couple of other local businesses here on Prince Edward Island. Believe it or not, my background is not food or food science, although, with my family background in agriculture, I have been exposed to it at a young age. I have a lot of relatives that still farm, as an example. But my day job, if I could call it that, which has helped to fund Honeybee since its inception, is actually in technology. So I and a partner own a software company in Charlottetown called the Timeless Group. Timeless Technologies, Timeless Medical Systems, and Timeless Veterinary Systems. And we build software for various verticals. Company has been around for a long time, and so we saved our money, and my wife and I invested in Honeybee because we thought that the company had significant potential. So I had the idea many years ago. Actually, believe it or not, in the mid '90s, and picked away at it as a hobby, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And then about 10 years ago, really started investing in it. And we launched our first product, the Honey Drop, in 2008. So we've been in the market for 4 years, after many years of R&D.
Cool. So, is it transitioning from like a tech company to a food company? That like was that a big deal to go through?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, they're completely different domains. Technology and food, I mean, completely different spectra. Um, However, there's a lot of similarities. I was very fortunate early on in my career to have worked with Apple for several years. And one of the things that I learned while working with them was that it's all about, number one, a compelling product or products. Number two, something that consumers are going to love, so they find value in, and most importantly, I believe, in your brand. And so, regardless of whether you're in the tech sector selling, widgets of some kind, or you're selling a food product, it has to be something that number one, people are going to like, and number two, they're going to find value in, and number three, you have to build a brand so that people can associate with you. And so, taking those lessons learned a few years back, I won't tell you how long ago that was, but suffice to say, I took those lessons working with one of the biggest brands in the world, some of the most creative advertising and branding and product development people in the world. And I really carry them with me in everything I do today. So we spend a lot of time researching and developing the Honeybee brand because it's vital to a company's success to do so. You may have noticed, actually, that the Honeybee brand, we hope anyway you noticed, it looks nothing like any other honey brand out there. Most honey brands around the world, their packaging is usually, quite frankly, I wouldn't say ultra premium. Honey in a jar is generally considered a commodity. So, and it usually is black and yellow and has a picture of a bee on it or something similar. We decided to do something different. We wanted to ensure that people understood that our products were completely novel and unique, innovative, and also premium. And we wanted to get away from the traditional black and yellow and having an insect on our packaging. So we went with pink and yellow. And the Honeybee brand is centered around the flower. It's a part of all of our brand identity and all of our logo work, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a lesson that I learned many, many years ago. You of course have to have something that people are interested in and they find value in. And also you have to develop a brand around that. So whether it's tech or food, there really was no transition. However, day to day, running a food manufacturing and a natural health product manufacturing company is quite different than working with software engineers.
Yeah, I can see that. So just for our viewers who may not be as familiar with the Honeybee, I'm quite familiar with it. I've used it a few times. Could you tell us what the product is and what the technology that was used
Sure.
to come up with that?
Happy to. So when I was starting my career, I graduated from school, and then afterwards I moved out to the West Coast. I wanted to work in the tech sector. This was, I hate to say it, but almost 20 years ago now. And I moved out to Vancouver. And one weekend, I was with some friends. We were hiking up near Whistler in the mountains, and we had to hike into our campsite. It was a pretty far hike. It took us most of the day. I arrived at the campsite and opened up my backpack and discovered that the glass jar of honey I had in the back of my backpack had shattered over everything inside. I immediately thought to myself, am I in bear country? And of course I was. I also immediately thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. And, when I got home to Vancouver, after that camping weekend, I started looking into portable honey because I wanted to carry it with me when I was hiking or cycling. It's excellent for athletes as an energy source. And I like it in my tea and on my toast, etc. And of course, there was other forms of packaging, like they were smaller than a big glass jar, which I had. But they're all still prone to breakage, and the product inside was liquid. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could carry it around in a solid form? And I started looking into it, and I realized that nobody had figured out how to put it into a solid. There's honey candies and honey suckers and honey cough drops, but they're not made from honey. They are simply flavored with it. They're made from sugar. So I started researching it, and being an entrepreneur, I sensed an opportunity. I also discovered the challenge. It's incredibly complex as a food. I'm not sure if you knew this, but honey is the only food in the world that doesn't spoil. It literally lasts for hundreds and it could last for millennia. When they opened up King Tut's tomb, they found honey inside, and it was still edible.
That's cool.
I'm not sure if I would have eaten it, but um, it was still good. So it has these natural properties actually that make it not just a food, but also a health product. It's antibacterial, antimicrobial. You can like put it on a cut and it will help you heal faster, as an example. So it's quite an interesting food, but all of these things make it actually quite complex. And it took almost 15 years of research to figure out how to put it into a solid form and make that a commercially and most importantly, a scalable manufacturing process so that we could take it to market. So I started that, on my own. And fast forward many years, I ended up moving from the West Coast back to the East Coast. And when I moved back home to PEI, I engaged some scientists at our university here at a place called the Biofood Tech Center. You can hire these food scientists, biologists, chemists, etc., to pursue research for you, and that's what I did. And we started that in 2004, and we launched in 2008. So very, very fortunate to have this type of resource here, and very, very fortunate to have been able to come home to PEI because this is a unique place when it comes to starting up a business. I've lived all across Canada and the U.S. I've started up businesses in multiple different provinces and states, and PEI is one of the best business environments for a startup company I've ever seen. The support from the public and the private sectors here is unparalleled, and it's actually a really, really great place to set up shop for a whole variety of reasons, from the cost of goods to access, to transportation. We're very close to the Port of Halifax, as you know, and so we ship via ocean all around the world, and it's cheaper to do it from here than it is from Toronto.
That's awesome. That's pretty good. I've been seeing a lot of new business across Atlantic Canada,
Yeah.
which since I've started, since me and my friend Rob started Startup Kitchen, so it's been pretty good. So you were talking about the how you came up with the product. One thing, I've used it, so I know it's a solid form, but is there any kind of additives or anything else that's added to it?
Well, so we have a whole variety of different types of products that we make from this technology. Our first product, which we launched 4 years ago, as I mentioned, was called the Honey Drop, and it is the world's first pure cube of dried honey, which you can put in your tea or your coffee. It's meant as a hot beverage sweetener, and it is 100% pure dried honey. All we've done is we've removed the water from it. So honey in a liquid form is about 15 to 20% moisture. And what we've done is we've come up with a process to remove that without altering it, without adulterating it in any way. So we maintain its look, its aroma, and most importantly, its taste, as well as its inherent health properties. We do have a honey and lemon variant, and so that's the only additive we put in there, a small amount of natural or organic lemon oil, and it flavors it quite well because honey and lemon go well together. We also make honey candies. We also grind it up into various powders and granular forms for ingredient use or baking. And about a year and a half ago, we launched the world's first honey lozenge that has added therapeutic ingredients. And we started off with a simple cough drop recipe, which is menthol and eucalyptus, when we also have a lemon variant. this is actually quite a milestone because this had to go through Health Canada approval. It is a licensed health product, so I'm sure you've probably seen on health products they have a little number on the package. It's either a DEIN for OTC and pharmaceutical drugs, or ours is a natural health product, so it has a natural health product license. This was the first time that Health Canada had ever approved honey as the carrier of the therapeutic ingredients. Prior to that, it was just a simple flavoring. So this is a milestone for us because we actually believe that our dried honey can carry any type of therapeutic ingredient, and we've been pursuing that research for many years. All sorts of different types of supplements and vitamins, natural health products, as well as OTC ingredients. And we're going to be introducing, under our own brand, as well as with some partners around the world, pure dried honey products carrying a wide variety of different types of ingredients for various therapeutic benefit. So we do a whole wide variety of things, but the key is our platform is the world's only pure dried honey, all natural platform. We haven't changed the honey in any way. And this is quite significant because it has a multitude of uses, and it is clearly all natural. Honey is far better for you than refined sugar. It's lower on the glycemic index, so people with diabetes or on a restricted diet, like a restricted carbohydrate diet, etc., they can safely consume it. So we believe that we have a platform not only for food, but also for health.
Cool. So one thing that I did mention earlier is that I did hear about you from Dragon's Den. Could you talk about that experience at all?
Sure. Well, it was an excellent experience. I would recommend anyone who lives in Canada to audition. Whether you're manufacturing products or you're selling a service or you're marketing something, it is an opportunity like no other. I'm not sure if you knew this, but Dragon's Den is the most popular show on the CBC. It's actually more popular than Hockey Night in Canada. So it has a lot of regular viewers. Now, of course, the Stanley Cup Finals probably blow it out of the water, but weekly, Dragon's Den has a well over 2 to 2.5 million viewers, and it's a phenomenon. You know, it airs in every major market twice. It's online, on YouTube, and of course it goes into syndication. And so, we wanted to get the word out there, and not having the marketing budget of like Kraft or P&G or Unilever. We just didn't have any other opportunity to get on national television other than auditioning for the Dragon's Den. And so my brother and I researched the opportunity for literally months. It's funny, we were actually encouraged to go audition by Arlene. She spoke at UPI a couple of years ago, and she talked about what an excellent marketing opportunity it is for a startup. And she explained the reach that the show has, and we really had no idea. I mean, we watched it, and I've been watching it for years. I love the show, but did not know the size and the scope of the fan base until she presented at the university here. So after hearing this, the next winter, when they came through Charlottetown at CBC, we went and auditioned. We were very fortunate to have been invited up, and we went in and we pitched our hearts out. we sincerely went through the process because obviously we were hoping to get exposure, but as a startup, you can never have enough capital. So we did everything we could to come to terms that we thought would be a good starting point for the negotiation that follows the show. So we shook on a deal on the show and started down that path. And it was a really, really good experience. Ultimately, though, even though we did shake on air, we decided after the show, as we went through due diligence, that we wanted to build a business a little bit more on our own, and we opted not to enter into a partnership with them. The show was actually shot in the spring of 2010, and it aired in January of 2011. And in those 6 to 8 months, quite a few amazing things happened. One of which was, well, our sales started to grow, which was obviously due in large part to our team's sales and marketing efforts. But that fall, in the fall of 2010, October to be precise, we went to a show in Paris called Cial. Forgive my French, but I think it's the acronym stands for the Salon International d'Alimentation. It's the largest food event on the planet. It's so big, it only happens once every 2 years. There is a Cial in Canada as well. It happens every year. But Cial Paris is the main show, and 200,000 attendees typically attend this show. It's massive. We were nominated by some of our customers and the editors of Canadian Grocer to represent Canada in their Gold Medal Awards, which they give out every 2 years. We discovered prior to the show that we had won as the best new product from Canada for our Honey Drop, and also the best in our category, which is called Sweet Grocery. And so that put us into the top 9 out of a field of 300 innovations from 30 countries in the running for the overall gold medal. And much to our surprise, at the show, we won. We won the top food prize in the world. It's like the Oscars of the world.
Congrats.
Thank you. Whenever I think of it to this day, I still am in a little bit of shock. It was an incredible honor. We're the first company in 50 years of this award to win from Canada. So it was a significant milestone, and the exposure that we got internationally was incredible. So our sales started to grow even more over the course of that fall, and we ultimately said no to the Dragons because our company was growing organically, and we didn't want to give up the level of equity that they wanted. So, and then the show aired in January, which of course, last year in 2011, we grew significantly across the country. Our retailers more than doubled. So the number of stores that we were in across Canada more than doubled, I believe, because of our exposure on the Dragon's Den. So it's an incredible marketing opportunity for Canadians. And I urge everyone to go audition. It's a great experience.
Awesome. Cool. So that's pretty fascinating. So this is a bit of a tangent here with honeybees and so on. You may have heard a lot about the honeybee population dying out and all those kinds of things. Do you have any kind of opinion on that?
Yeah, I know it intimately. Having come from an agricultural background, my family and extended family have kept bees for many years. And of course, I mean, that's where we get our supply of honey. And so we're very actively engaged in, what's happening around the country and around the world. Fortunately, in Canada, colony collapse disorder, or CCD as it's referred to, it hasn't affected us as dramatically as it has in other areas like, say, the southern U.S., where quite literally entire bee hives and populations were getting wiped out over the winter. There's a natural process of a percentage of a hive dying off over the winter, especially in colder climes. Actually, I should say in any climate. And normally that's between, say 15 to 30% tops. But with CCD, some bee populations were experiencing 80, 90% death rates, and sometimes even 100%. So horrible scenario, because bees are honeybees, I should say, are the main pollinators for agriculture all across the world. And so this is devastating, not only to honey producers and beekeepers and the honey industry, but also to agriculture in general. So a lot of research has been going into this over the last several years, and they've thankfully begun to identify the multiple factors which are contributing to this. It's a combination of disease, environmental factors, how the bees are being treated in terms of migration. When bees are used to pollinate in certain countries, they literally travel from one side of the country to the next and back over the course of the year. And this is extremely hard on the populations. In Canada, this doesn't happen as much. Also, we do not have all of the diseases, nor do we have the environmental and climate change issues happening as dramatically as some other places. So we have been somewhat insulated from it, but not entirely. And it's a concern. Fortunately, the honey production in Canada has been steadily rising over the years, and we're one of the biggest producers in the world. We produce somewhere between 85 and 95 million pounds a year, which is a pretty large producer on the global market. And so our domestic supply, which is where we get all of our honey for our products, is quite secure.
Okay. All right. So this has been a very interesting interview. It's it's quite different from anything else we've done for a while. So for all our interviews, we ask this standard question, which is, do you have any advice for our viewers who are all either entrepreneurs or thinking of becoming an entrepreneur?
I do, most definitely. And I can't take the credit for this advice because, again, I've been extremely fortunate to have had mentors over the years who have guided me and instilled some of the values which I believe are important to being an entrepreneur in me. And so there's a few key things. Number one, pursue your passion. If you have a passion for something and you can turn that into your job, you are one of the most fortunate people alive. However, do not do it blindly. Not all passions relate to profit, and you have to, when you're going into business, do your research to make sure that you have an economic opportunity that is worth rolling the dice on, because it always involves risk. Entrepreneurs must take risks. But while I encourage everybody to jump in feet first, you have to do your research. You have to do the background work so that your risks are educated risks, and you're not diving in blindly to whatever you're pursuing. And it's very easy to do this research today. You can do it a lot of the times online. The other thing that I would suggest is never be afraid to ask for help. Nobody, even entrepreneurs who've been at it their whole lives, know all the answers. And the most successful people out there are constantly striving to surround themselves with people that may add to their experience or who are smarter than them. And that's extremely important, especially as you try and get something off the ground and scale it. You need a team. It truly is about the team. And the sooner you can start engaging that team, the greater your probability of success. And I'm very lucky because I'm not shy. I'm constantly asking people for help. And you'd be amazed, even asking strangers, if they're an entrepreneur or they're in business, how extremely generous they can be. And I strongly, strongly urge any entrepreneur to take advantage of that. As I said, I can't take credit for all of that advice because I've been very lucky to have been given it by my own mentors over my life and professional career. Um, but I believe all of those points are extremely important.
Perfect. Thank you, John. This has been a great interview, and thanks for your time.
You're very welcome.